All right, we're back. God, so now it's gonna be one of those. No, it wasn't on for that. All right. Well, it's be one of those classic two-parter Wittershins episodes when we get fucking technical difficulties. But we are back with Wittershins, so hopefully everybody didn't get bumped. I'm not going to be checking the chat room. If anybody else is in their apps or something, maybe you can check the chat room. Tell me if there's anything going on. But I'm not going to hit that button again. We have had problems with the mobile app before, but never that problem before. So here we are, sitting around our table, our new house, good friends, and
eating chicken.
People eating chicken.
Any questions on the mobile app?
Yeah, check. Can you? Yeah, that's what I was saying. If you see anything, could tell me what they're. But I'm not going to hit that fucking chat button.
Well, I got it. Shout out to Alan Jackson, Lisa Schofield, Lorelei, Rachel Hurtado, Strix. There's all sorts of people here in the chat listening in.
Well, good, all sorts of people. Why don't y'all ask some questions and come on and interact with us? Because that's what we're here for.
Now, those of you that were in the app before, I'm looking at Christian. I don't know if that's this broadcast or the one that just ended. So what we got here? Well, that broadcast just fucking kicked us off, so I had to start it again.
You had to start all over.
No, this is the main user account. This isn't a specific show, is it?
I don't know. It didn't look like it was running live when I saw it.
What the fuck?
I don't even know how it works.
Then I don't know what to say.
Do you have the app?
Do I have the app?
Yeah. I thought you had the Spreaker app.
I might have had it. Let's see.
Well, I'm in do not disturb mode, so nobody can text me anything or anything like that. Yeah, now we're in the move part 2. There you go. Okay, that's live. And that's good. I can see that we actually are broadcasting.
Sun says hello.
So what we're going to talk...
So what we want to talk about?
Right when we got here, I think it was the second day or something, that thing happened.
What thing?
With the voodoo bone lady.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Christian you're going to drag me into this?
Oh, yeah, drag you into this.
That's worse than the other thing I was going to bring up.
No.
Actually, no.
No.
That's just similar when you...
I mean, apparently Christian likes the voodoo bone lady. So does Hoodoo Simois. And we don't know. Okay, no, not Hoodoo Simois.
I like her just like her. She's always...
We don't know her.
That she's nice, yeah.
Well,
I mean, she is a voodoo priestess in town.
No, she's not.
What do you mean? She says she's voodoo.
Yeah, she's not.
What is she?
Huh? Do you really want me to tell you?
Was she voodoo?
She's full of shit. That's what she is. The end.
Listen, she's always been nice to me. Everyone in town seems to hate
Anybody
her.
who says that they're a voodoo priestess, until they can prove that they are not.
I'm just saying that when I went in there... How does somebody
prove to you that they're Alexandrian Christian?
Well, because they have lineage.
Exactement.
Well, I thought to prove you did voodoo, you pull out your dead chicken and say, see?
You have a lineage. And she does not.
Oh, well, she just showed me a dead chicken. I thought, no, she didn't show me a dead chicken. I went into her store on Royal Street. She was very nice. I put her on the little map that we have of all the different shops in the French Quarter for Hex Flyer. Our flyer has a map of all the different people. And I've been in there a couple of times. She was so nice. Now, I've heard all the other tour companies have beef with her. But we have a tour, and she never gave me any trouble at all. So I don't know if it's that she's just crazy and they get into it with her. But now that she was in the news for shooting her boyfriend, I really like her because I don't want her to not like me. Now that I know she carries, and if I say the wrong thing, I might be voodoo.
Shot in front of Rouse
I might be
too.
voodoo fricassee. I mean, I just I don't want to be these voodoo murders in town.
So those of you who don't know,
bag to piss out you.
the woman called the Voodoo Bone Lady apparently shot her boyfriend in the French Quarter in front of her shop. I think 2 nights after we got here or something. It was shortly after. And Christian immediately, posted the story. It says, "I think it's voodoo related." And then later, did I actually hear the story?
Did I hear about this from?
Because I've been in Facebook.
Why'd you call that voodoo related?
It's not voodoo related because that's a crock of shit. That is not. Let me tell you something.
I told you it's interesting.
I will tell you right now, people come to New Orleans all the time and they do shit in New Orleans all the time talking about how they're voodoo this and voodoo that, which is a crock of shit.
What about all those?
Onassis Bloomberg, which is, the voodoo
That's not her
lady.
real name. It's April.
Of course it is. But that was the other name that she went by, which was Onassis
Well,
Bloomberg.
there's a few.
Because she wanted to take power names.
There are a
to
few
take
of those in
power
town that
names.
have several names.
There might be, and that you're
Now,
absolutely
what about all those
right.
descendants of Marie Laveau?
That's a crock of bullshit. Okay, let me tell you something. Nope, that is a crock of shit. Anybody talk
Just
about
like
I'm a
strange.
descendant of Marie Laveau, and I can start naming off people who say that bullshit. That's a crock of shit. Nope, not happening. Not now. Not ever. And the reason for that is because you have all these people that they come from Detroit, and they come from Portland. And this and that and the other, and they're like, I'm a descendant of Marie Laveau because I feel that.
First of all, didn't her last descendant, I believe, died in 97, and she was a little old white lady because that family constantly intermarried with white people. Both of Marie Laveau's husbands were white people, if I'm correct. I know the second one was. And so, if there is a descendant of Marie Laveau wandering around, she probably doesn't look like Marie Laveau.
No. And so
Well, what about that? Isn't there one around the French Quarter that calls herself
you know
something?
what? I swear to God, you're not dragging me to no foolishness tonight.
There's somebody,
You're not dragging me to
there's
foolishness
someone
tonight.
that uses the last name Laveau in the French Quarter. I can't.
There are several people that use the
Oh.
last name Laveau.
Yeah.
Several people.
Candy Laveau.
But
or what is it?
yeah,
Some
no, it's
guy.
not.
Belinda.
You're not. Nope.
You're friends with him.
Nope, you're not dragging me. All I'm gonna say is that when
Beverly
it comes to when it comes to
We are learning so much about
when
our
it
new
comes
neighborhood.
to, when it comes to that, and it comes to and when it comes to Madame Laveau, no.
A beautiful day for a neighbor.
People who say if somebody says
Would you be mine?
that they are a
Would you be mine?
direct descendant, or which they also like to say the reincarnation of Marie Laveau, they are full of shit. I'm sorry, they're not. And then I will also go as far out to say this. Just so you know, since you wanted to open that door, I'm going to kick it all the way open. And I'm going to say,
This
because a lot of people like to say, especially like these people who say that they're descendants or the reincarnation, that they are Loa or that Marie Laveau is a Loa. That is not true. Absolutely not. Marie is absolutely a venerated spirit of this city. She is a gatekeeper of New Orleans.
Would she be a
Is she
Loa
a Loa?
here?
No.
What
Absolutely
makes
not.
a Loa?
There are certain ceremonies that take over a year for that to happen. But here's
She's
the
been
thing.
gone for 2
Oh no! Oh, here's the thing though. If somebody is a Loa, you will know where the body is. People say that she was buried in the Galappian tomb.
She is
which
buried.
is people say that, but there are also people who say that she was.
Because they don't know what they're talking about. Carolyn Moore Long has a whole book proving.
I understand
She was
that.
in that tomb.
And I
These people are
understand that
full of
exactly.
shit.
And she saw Marie Laveau's face and took a picture of it in that tomb. No, she didn't.
The point
But
is
anyway,
that both of her married names are on that tomb.
exactly. But
She's
here's the
buried
thing.
in that
But-
tomb.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to dig it up
I'm
and find it.
not saying that
Marie,
is-
you in there?
I'm not saying that is or is not the case, but what I am saying is that in order for an individual, a person to become a Loa, there are a whole bunch of ceremonies that have to take place before that. And they're not going to be in the damn tomb of the Galappians in St. Louis number 1. Period. End of story.
Can I be a Loa?
Nope.
Why not?
Because I said.
I want to be a Loa. Can I be an Orisha instead?
I don't know. You gotta go talk to the Orisha people. I don't know about that.
You know, when we've had either one of these guys on the show through Skype, it's been kind of like this. We just listen to them talk.
I'm going to call myself Orisha Franklin. What you want? Baby, I need it. What you want?
I'm not messing with you. I swear to God.
Suck
I'm
it to
not
me, suck it to
messing
me,
with
suck it to me.
No.
Suck it to me. Suck it to me.
you. No.
Suck it to me. Suck it to me. Okay, so anyway, there is a woman here in town.
And here's the other thing. Let me tell you right quick. Because if y'all want to talk about, like, you know, like these powerful people and stuff like that, people talk about Marie all the time in New Orleans. And listen, I get it. I understand. I honor Marie myself. I absolutely do. But you know what? If you really want to talk about somebody who did some shit, why don't anybody ever know about or talk about Julia Brown? I don't understand why they don't do all that.
Wasn't she on Designing Women?
No, bitch. Oh. No. Julia Brown from Manchac.
Oh,
who put the curse on the fucking town.
The French
that
chef.
When she said that she... No, motherfucker. That when she said when she left here, nobody else would be able to live in this town. And this was like, I don't know, back in like the 40s or the 50s, something like that. To this day, nobody else has been able to live in Manchac. Because you know why? It has gone like under flood every single time. And if you can drive there right now, and you won't see nobody living in Manchac. Why don't anybody ever talk about Julia? I don't understand that.
I never heard her other than Designing Women.
Yes, I know, but that's not that's Julia Sugarbaker, you asshole.
You are Julia Sugarbaker.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask about... there is a woman that's a tour guide here, and she had tried to convince me one afternoon that not only was she the reincarnation of Marie Laveau, and that's why she works that big M...
Which she calls her on a cell phone?
Right. So she works that big M into her logo. She says that she is the reincarnation of Marie Laveau, but she went one step further.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. She also said that she was the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. Oh, yeah. Now, I remember Sean telling me, too, a biker chick and some old lady got into a fist fight in front of the Crystal Chamber in Salem because they were fighting over who was the Mary Magdalene. You know, back in the 80s and early 90s when everybody was everyone's reincarnation. You notice nobody... How come nobody ever says they were reincarnated from, like, Hitler or... you never meet those people. It's always Cleopatra... Like, no one was like, you know, I tortured people for the CIA. Right. You know, that was my thing.
My theory on reincarnation just fucks up everybody's theories. So I believe in particle memory. Our atoms remember all of the things and people that they have been. So, Moise, I've been wanting to ask you all this. Because you know, being an initiated voodoo practitioner who actually goes to Haiti and knows the shit, when we were involved with... the Lucky Mojo folk, we became aware of this controversy where Cat Ironwood said that New Orleans voodoo ain't real voodoo. Got anything to say about that? You knowing both sides.
My question would be is, what does Cat know about voodoo, period?
Oh.
That's my question, number one. Number two is that I will tell you this. There is voodoo in New Orleans. But if you're looking for like the voodoo historically, the only place that you're going to find it around here is not in the French Quarter. You're not going to find it in the French Quarter, but where you are going to find it is on the plantations, because that's where
the slaves
were taken. But then you do have a transition to where, like, some of the spiritualist
during
churches,
Katrina, most of them are gone now.
A good portion of them are gone now. But if you go to the plantation, there are still, like, especially if you go to like St. Francisville, which is about 40 minutes north
like
of
the
here.
Myrtles of them.
Like you will still find voodoo folks there. As a matter of fact, like, I have a godbrother, like one of my godbrothers on the Haitian side. He comes from the plantation, and coming from the plantation, like, they absolutely have the voodoo here. It's a little bit different than, like, of course, you know, it is, you know, in Haiti, but they absolutely have it here, and you know, and it's just like he and I have had like many discussions about that, and those discussions are always like, if you really want to know about like the voodoo here, where do you go to know it? And his answer is always the same. And I've experienced this for myself, you know, in that you go to the plantation, because that is where those folks ended up. They didn't end up in the French Quarter. You know, they didn't end up like in Tremé. They didn't end up in, you know, in the Ninth Ward. Well, some of them maybe, but like 95% of them,
also have to look at
they were
Katrina.
they were on the plantation.
Katrina drove out so many of the poor people that a lot of those spiritual churches are gone now.
But the spiritualist churches, and you're right,
Not
like
spiritualist. That's the
spiritual churches, whatever.
Grubby
Same
Mary
difference.
always used to confuse. One is a Baptist type of church. The other one talks to
No,
the dead with Ouija boards and trumpets. It's not the same
No,
thing.
but during that, like during Katrina, like a lot of folks like were driven out to the point to where there's like maybe like one or two, maybe three of those churches now. You know, whereas there used to be a whole lot more.
Well,
but
that's where it gets confusing.
But if you want to talk about New Orleans voodoo, you go to the plantation. You don't go to the quarter.
Well, one of the
Simple fact.
the scholars have now been using the term Mississippi Delta voodoo more than they're using New Orleans voodoo because it is probably what you're saying. It spreads out across the region. I've always felt that the reason that voodoo got used here, because it wasn't the original people, the first group of slaves that came to New Orleans were the Senegambien, which was Congo was next. The Senegambian were first, and they brought the Grigri. The Congo came next, but they didn't have the same breakdown of peoples that Haiti had, which is why it would be very different. I don't think the word voodoo was used. The first magical word that they have on record in this city from the 1700s was from a court case, and it was the word Grigri.
In a court case.
In a court. Well, I'm just saying that they have a document that they have on
In a court case.
Right.
Sure.
But it's the earliest documented use of a magical word here was Grigri, and that was the Senegambians. Now, where the Congo fit in, and I think it's interesting, in Palamayambe, and you know how to pronounce the word of the spirit, is it Nzambi when it's spelled with an N?
Zambi.
Right. Well, they have a spirit here that they associated with Marie Laveau called Le Grand Zombie, which could show the Congo influence, but that...
La Grande Zombie is actually, that's not even Congolese. That's not Kikongo. That's actually French for means the big zombie. That's what that actually means. But here's the thing, and I will argue this point like to the death. In that in New Orleans, the primary root of New Orleans, the primary, not the singularity, but the primary root of New Orleans is Congo. Because number one, you've got Congo Square. Number two, think about what is the prison?
No, I think Le Grand Zombie is tied
what's
to
the
that,
prison?
too.
No, but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it is not.
'Cause
but,
it's the
but
idea
it is
of a great
It's not
spirit.
a. It is a Creole or a French Creole
Well,
word.
it's not just homophonic. I mean, it's referring to a great spirit. You know what I mean?
I
It's-
don't disagree with you.
But
on that.
Senegambians was the
But-
biggest first wave of the slaves that were brought here. So they did have an influence, and they weren't present in Haiti. The Senegambians. Haiti had a
But of
Congo
course-
influence.
But you're right, and you're
So
absolutely
that's what
right.
makes it different. My theory, and
There-
there's no evidence of why they started to use voodoo here. My theory is that when they saw what happened with the Haitian Revolution,
Of course,
which was the most
But you
successful
also
slave
had-
rebellion in history. But remember,
the only
right?
successful
But they
slave
weren't
rebellion.
coming here. The people that left Haiti.
You're right.
The people that left Haiti for New Orleans were not the slaves that were practicing voodoo. Those were the people still in Haiti,
No.
keeping the revolution going.
You're absolutely
My
right.
theory, and again, they don't. I've never seen anybody be able to prove why they first started using the word voodoo here. Only that they did. My theory is that all of those other magics, including the Congo and the Senegambian, they started to call voodoo because they would have been inspired by what happened in Haiti. They would have looked at these people in Haiti with
agree.
us say, "Well, we're going to do this voodoo too, because maybe we can, conquer
I
these
agree.
slave masters." But
I don't disagree. with you.
where Cat gets it wrong,
But-
and I think that Cat is responsible for so much misinformation on the What?
Go ahead.
Am I wrong?
No, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Well, I'm telling the truth. Kat, I love her husband, even though he writes suicide manuals, but he's cool. No, he's weird, but he's cool. I like him. I don't like her. She's wrong. She is. I have been saying this for over a decade. She is responsible for 90% of all these internet people all over saying there's no such thing as New Orleans voodoo. It never existed. Blah blah blah. Well, I doubt it really survived.
It does exist. It exists on the plantation.
Well, it also it didn't survive in the way, I think people think that you have to have, in the case of, say, Haitian voodoo, you have a more unbroken line because they were unfettered by the prosecution of the state, because voodoo was, more accepted, not perfectly.
Well, voodoo is actually, if you really want to get down to that, let me tell you a story. Okay, if you really want to get down to that. So during the Middle Passage, when all the slaves were being brought over, during the Middle Passage, when the slaves was being brought over, okay, they went to Hispaniola, Haiti / Dominican Republic. They were being brought here. They were being brought to Cuba and such like that. When they went over to Haiti / Hispaniola, what happened is that basically what you're dealing with is that you have these slaves that are trying to serve their spirits and they cannot. Because when they try to serve their spirits, what happens is the slave masters are going and they're beating, torturing, and killing the slaves. But what they did do is they allowed them to attend the Catholic Mass. And because they allowed them to attend the Catholic Mass, what ended up going on was they go in, and as you see in every Catholic church known to man, there's all these statues and portraits and murals and all this stuff of all these saints and such. And they see all of these things, and what they begin to see is that they can associate this Loa with this saint. For example, you see a statue of Moses holding the serpent staff. And what you're looking at is you see the serpent staff, which in the voodoo would be Dombala Wedo. But his daddy, which is Moses, is holding the staff, which is Odan Wedo. And so what happens with that is that they're able to mask what they're doing with the saints.
They would have had to have kept doing that here, because they had a freedom in Haiti later on.
But you're right in that. But here's the thing: is during the Middle Passage, the slave times were both there and here as well. They're in both places at the same point in time.
But here it became more persecuted.
But you also had slaves from Benin that came over here, which is the same slaves from Benin that went to Haiti. You had Dahomey slaves.
How do you think they started using the term voodoo here? Because we don't have records of
the way that I believe that they started using the term voodoo here was because of the French folks that left or escaped, quote unquote.
So do you think it inspired
Haiti,
those?
That brought them, because they said voodoo.
Do you think it inspired the slaves here?
It was absolutely an inspiration.
But my point is that before that, there was religion of, they did have African magic and religion here. It was just much more underground because of the fact that it was more restricted.
There was no way to mask it.
Right. So
there was no way thought of at that point to mask it.
Well, they had to syncretize it more because it's number one, it's a city. So it's going to have more oversight.
But number two, the slaves
area.
can't go into the church, but they can stand outside and listen, and they can look inside.
Well, they did have their dances on Congo Square.
On Congo Square, but that's not a church.
No, well, in a way it was, but
no. But I'm talking about
but
a Catholic
he was talking
city.
about Kat Ironwood, and I want to get to what you're saying is true. I'm talking about what she's saying, which isn't true. She's responsible for this whole idea. She was on my radio show once. And she, I said
that episode
years and years ago. Well, go find it.
I thought I heard all of them. Yeah,
I said something to the effect of, hoodoo and the saints here, and she started going on about hoodoo's only Protestant. Which, first of all, I don't think
that's bullshit.
Not true. But
number one, that's bullshit.
Hold on, I don't commit. So she said hoodoo's only Protestant. So then I sort of thought about it, and I said, wait a minute here. You're always saying that what happened in New Orleans was all hoodoo because of some 1929, I think it was, song by Jelly Roll Morton or something. She had some convoluted, ridiculous reason why it was all hoodoo here and that it's only white people that think it's voodoo here. Because she's looking at 1929 and not 1800s Marie Laveau period. So I thought about it and I said, well, didn't you just say that hoodoo was all Protestant? And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, okay. The people that lived in the French Quarter and the Treme of 1800s New Orleans were all fucking Catholic. The Protestants didn't cross the neutral ground, which is that...
Catholic city.
Right,
Yeah.
they wouldn't cross Canal Street.
Hello.
There's a neutral ground. And that's where I got her. Now, of course, we know that hoodoo does have a Catholic component. But
Of course
the
it does.
point is, her argument is there was no religion here. It was all folk magic, and she's full of shit. There are court records, police records of Betsy Toledano and Marie Laveau in 1851 when they were arrested for having rituals. And Marie went the next day down to the police department to demand her statues, and she referred to them as the gods of the motherland. That is not just folk magic. There's religion. Now, we may not know what the whole scope of that religion was, but it wasn't just mixing bags and oil.
No, you're absolutely
She's
right.
wrong, and she's responsible for that.
And I agree with you. You're exactly right in that. Here's the thing with that, though.
Terrible scholars.
Here's the thing with that is that, like, you have on one end, what you're doing is, okay, first of all, let's not, like, mince words. Okay? Hoodoo or conjure and voodoo are cousins.
Of course.
They are related. Okay, so here's the thing. So some of the things that you do in hoodoo are actually done in the voodoo. Some of the things that are done in the voodoo are done in. But here's
It's not hard to figure out why.
But here's the point in all of that. The point in all of that is that in this particular city, you cannot separate one without the other because they were melded together because not only of the Dahomey slaves, but you also have the Congo slaves that came in together. Just as they did in Haiti,
But it's more
with
than
the Dahomey.
It's more than the slaves.
It's not.
It is.
That is
She
the
is
primary
no, but
influence.
I'm not talking
I'm
about.
saying.
There's another influence that is
Which is
being
what?
left out, and that
Which is
is
what?
the oppression of the white people. In other words,
Of course.
right? But that you can't. Like, okay, it's often said, oh, the Americans came in and they made the Congo square dances legal. The French didn't make it legal. In the French slavery, you could buy your way out of slavery, and that's why they had those dances at Congo Square. When the Americans took over, they put it into law, but people couldn't buy their way out of slavery. And all what they were doing by putting it into law was controlling and regulating it. And why this matters is the evolution of hoodoo in this city, I think, is pretty clear in the sense that over the period of the turn of the 20th century, as the religion became more restricted, it got watered down to magic. And then you found it in the pharmacy. So now you could go to the local pharmacy at the turn of the 20th century and get your different hoodoo oils. And so the reason, of course, there's overlap with the magic and the religion, but the reason, and this is the piece Kat misses, she thinks it was always just the folk magic. Wait, but that's not why. The reason it transitioned to folk magic was because that became more acceptable. It's sort of like the story of witchcraft in Europe. As the diabolism was persecuted, you could still practice certain forms of magic. The Catholic Church would sell indulgences. They would sell prayers. Magic did not get as persecuted as the diabolism of the supposed worship of the devil. You take that here to Louisiana and New Orleans. They began to oppress it. And it's why when Mother Leafy Anderson came here in the early 20th century and she wanted to sell all her gree-gree and this and that, they said, now that was being persecuted by the 1910s. First it was the religion, then it was the magic. So now they forced her to create the spiritual church movement. Mm-hmm. And so it's yes, the influence when you're talking about where the magic comes from, of course it's all these different slave tribes, but you cannot, where the white influence comes in is their oppression of the slaves forced them to syncretize with saints.
Of course it did.
It later forced them to get
That's
rid
why
of the
the
religious.
revolution took place.
Right, but that's where the overlap comes from. The transition into hoodoo and conjure is part of that is because they couldn't get away with the religion anymore. So now it just really went underground and it became workings. But of course they're related. I think hoodoo is the daughter of voodoo in many ways.
I would say that they're probably like good first cousins. I would say.
I don't know. Down in the south, that sounds kind
I
of
would
twisted.
say that they're good first.
She drives me crazy, and you know I've always said that. Because she's
and-
responsible for so much of... Carolyn
Right.
Moore Long is the one that's done the best amount of research on that.
And I don't disagree with those two things coming together. But what I will say when it comes down to it at the end of the day, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that whether it be in Port-au-Prince, or whether it be in New Orleans, there was a river or a stream that enabled that magic to survive. I'm gonna bat you in the head with a piece of chicken, I swear to God. Because of that.
I'm not debating you, I'm talking about her.
You're talking about fucking chicken breasts. I don't know.
I'm talking about that.
Or chicken leg.
She's on there bashing
Excuse
everybody.
me.
First of all, one of the
But-
people she bashes is Priestess Miriam. And what a lot of people don't know, she's been here over 30 years, but she's not from here. So I had that awful Dark Lady of New Orleans, whatever his name is. Boba Fett or what? Boba Fett. Boba Fett. No, he tried to tell me that he said that Priestess Miriam was a cultural appropriator. I'm like, she's fucking black. How can she be culturally appropriating anything? So then, am I still there?
Oh yeah, I'm just checking.
Anyway, so
We're good.
what a lot of people don't understand, Priestess Miriam was ordained in the spiritual church movement in Chicago, which has direct ties to what was here. So in that way, she has more of a...
Down here, you would call them the Black Hawk churches.
But she has a huge connection to the
Yes.
legacy of what happened here. A huge connection. So even though she isn't from here, she has more of a connection than Grubby Mary.
All right. We're gonna take a musical break, and I'm gonna come back. I got a white person question after this. All right, we'll be back.
I hate the song.
Widdershins. You guys talk for a second. I gotta mix a drink for food.
He plays too much music.
Too much. It's only for like the smoke breaks,
No.
and bathroom breaks.
Howard
and
Stern
that
got
kind
better
of
when he
stuff.
stopped playing music. I never played music. I don't want anything competing with
Our
what I have to
fans
say.
love it. Our fans love that.
May
We
I see
rock
one,
out.
Terry?
So let me ask this other question, Benny. See, I've been in Facebook jail. I've been reading all your stuff. Sometimes I can like people's posts. Sometimes I can't. I can laugh. I can't comment. In Facebook jail for another 2 days. But Christian and Brian been on this vendetta for the last several days about the term witchcraft and its ownership by the British traditional witches. And crediting Gardner, I give Gardner all the credit that's due, but
Don't put words in my mouth.
okay. But I saw a couple things, and you correct me. I know you will, but
right.
giving Gardner the credit for this entire witchcraft thing, and my question is, what about Leland, Margaret Murray, Robert Graves? All of these things pinnacle to what Gardner put together, and they predate
First
Gardner.
off, you're incorrect. And that I did not say.
Okay, tell me what you said, because I haven't been able to comment.
When I have said the use of the word witch, and if you notice, if people have replied and they said, "It's not all Gardner," I've actually said, I don't claim to know what the Anglo-Saxons were practicing. What I do claim to know, however, is that the word wicca, which refers to a male witch, is spelled W-I-C-C-A, is often referred to incorrectly as Wicca. There was no religion of Wicca.
I've often said this. Gardner there was one C, and he was talking about like a race of
it's
people
not-
called the Wicca.
But that's not consistent, and
Yeah.
these people were not scholars.
Yeah.
Gardner was not an etymologist. Sanders was not an etymologist. To try to expect, Rhodes Scholar, Oxford level linguistic scholarship, like, one of our coven members, Levi Rowland, speaks 7 languages and is a master's of linguistics. When I want to know about a word, I'm not going to go look up what Gerald Gardner says. I'm going to ask Levi, who actually studied, language and linguistics. The word witcha meant male witch. The word witcha, witche, meant female witch. Now, you have to note the fact that Anglo-Saxon was a gendered language, much like the Romantic languages of French and Spanish and
Russian
Italian.
is gendered.
It was a gendered language. Modern English is not. When you take the and the a off of the words witcha and witche, which aren't really actually words, they're gender variants of the same word. When you translate witcha and witche into modern non-gendered English, you are left with the word witch. So Laurie Cabot's assertion for the last several decades that I always used to doubt her on, but she was right, the old word for witch was not Wicca, it was witch. This is a fact. Linguistically, they were the word witch. Now, I'm not and nowhere in anything I have posted. That's the one thing I'm sort of making sure I'm correcting you on. If you read what I wrote, because I'm very picky about what I say, how it's translated.
Wow.
Well, it's true. Nowhere did I say that I believe that what the Anglo-Saxons were doing was what initiatory witches today, which are sometimes referred to even by themselves as Wicca, which I don't use even as an initiate. I will never use because it's not accurate. You could tell me Gardner this and Sanders that.
Gardner
and this one,
never
that,
had a
before,
Wicca on a on a book
Well,
cover.
that's the
you
other
know?
thing. None
I'm
of them
always
used
going
it.
on that.
None of them
Yeah.
used it.
Yeah.
None of them used it.
Yeah.
Stuart Farrar had a book called "What Witches Do." They had witchcraft today. They had witches. You know,
I'm
the
always
witches
having that argument.
Where did none of these people use the word Wicca? Where did this?
Yeah.
Charles Cardell, I believe, was one of the ones that popularized it. There were a few people, but and I think Sanders helped. These people were not scholars. They were not scholars. They were not scholars. Trying to rely on those people for the accurate linguistic pronunciation of words is probably not a smart thing to do. So what I'm saying in those posts is, while we don't know what the Anglo-Saxons called, what they were referring to when they used the terms witch and witch beyond sorcery, we do know it had to do with sorcery. One of the etymological trails does go back to a Proto-Germanic root, which, by the way, the Germanics did use the K sound. And there was a word, Wikkjaz, I believe it's spelled. Right, but like Wikkjaz. And it meant necromancer, by the way, conjurer of the dead. So you know I love that, because I do, other than my initiatory work, I do work with the dead. But the word, you say Wikkjaz really fast, witches. Wasn't Wicca, it was witches. We're witches. And that's, so even Wikkjaz, you know, that, I'm sure there's witches. It sounds like witches. And the point is that while we don't, I'm not arguing that it became initiatory craft. I would argue that what we today call initiatory craft, what I wouldn't include Leland because that was Italian. That's Strega. I would.
But Leland influenced his
Well,
work.
of course he influenced it, but I'm just saying, like but he didn't claim to be a witch. Gardner was the first person to publicly come out and claim to be a witch. Murray didn't do that. Leland didn't do that. Graves didn't do that. That is a major differentiator. To come out and say I knew a witch, to come out and say I'm reading folk tales about witches and here's what I think about them versus hi, I'm a witch. There's a difference. But here's the thing. While we don't know what the Anglo-Saxons practiced, we do know that it was germane to their culture. And so Brian has his own views. Brian probably does believe, even more than I do, that Gardner found something. I believe that Gardner did find something. Do I think he didn't add to it? Well, of course not. He added a lot to it. So did Dorian Valiente, so did Sanders. All these people added to the soup.
He clearly borrowed from Crowley as well.
Was, you know, and they borrowed from Leland, but there was a strong British element to it as well. But where I sort of get, you know, a little snitty, I used to use the word witch as an umbrella word. I no longer do because it stopped making sense to me. Here's the thing. If witch is an umbrella word, number one. If literally witch is just a direct translation to all these other words, brujeria, curanderismo, strega in Italy. If witch is a direct translation to all these words, and I'm an initiated witch, how many initiated curandero, brujeria, and strega do you think would accept me as an initiated curandero, brujeria, and strega? They wouldn't, because I'm not. Because they're not exactly the same. And so you could argue, well, witch is the umbrella word, and strega, curanderismo, and brujeria are, you know, variations of witchcraft. Well, okay, let's go down that rosy path for just a moment. Well, wait. What? I want to finish this thought.
Finish your thought, and I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, if brujeria, curanderismo, and strega are all aspects of witchcraft, then what is the British aspect of witchcraft called? See what I'm saying? It's witchcraft. In other words, witchcraft is witchcraft. We don't know what it was. Then again, we don't fully know what strega was. Come on, Gramassi made up half that shit, and he probably pulled it out of Stephanie's hair. So the fact is, come on, if she shook her head, Natalie Holloway would fall out. Oh no, that's Judica. But anyway, I'm being nice. No, I'm not. I hate it. Judica. Anyway.
Just finish your thought.
The thing is, Judicant. The thing is, okay. I'm not going to tell a curanderismo they can't call themselves a witch. Why? Because some white person hundreds of years ago pointed a gun at them and said, stop practicing witchcraft. Well, they weren't practicing witchcraft. They were practicing their own thing. But they were being persecuted under the word witch by these crazy white Christians. So if they started calling it witchcraft in their family, who am I to say they can't? Obviously, words evolve and change. But when I'm talking about witchcraft from a research perspective and going back into time and trying to see what the legacy of witches were, it is European. And no, not in some true racist sense, because I would never say that, I don't see witchcraft as ethnic based. Star Ravenhawk is a black woman in New York City who's one of the badass witches, most badass witches I've ever met. But the point is, the roots of witchcraft come from a certain place. Some of them are Egyptian. There is a trail that led to that word, is what I'm saying. Just as there's a trail to lead to the use of that word in Mexico, because some white person pointed a gun at your head and said, stop practicing witchcraft. And that's what I'm trying to get to. Now, do I think that initiation has a role? I will make that statement strongly. I was a witch for 32 years before I was, 30 years before I was initiated. I don't believe now that I'm an initiate, like some initiates believe. I don't believe I wasn't a witch before. I was a witch before. But I will say, I think that initiation is the deepest level of witchcraft.
I got one thing before you jump in. So you hit on something really important that I always like to try and point out. The initiation process that's in British traditional witchcraft and all, white people witchcraft is Egyptian-based. The idea of a symbolic death and rebirth is an Egyptian idea.
No, they don't know.
They were the first to have it.
No, there were absolutely examples of this in Ireland. Newgrange.
Ireland before Egypt, though?
Ireland, when's Newgrange?
We have no written record of Ireland.
Isn't Newgrange like thousands of years? When is Newgrange to? But I'm just saying, Newgrange wasn't a product of Egypt. The idea of death and rebirth, that was in China, that was in cultures all over the world. I don't think that Egypt wasn't a direct influence in these things, but I think that there were other cultures, the Picts and that sort of thing, that would have had... I traipsed through fucking 5,000-year-old ruins across the country of England and Ireland that were clearly initiatory and death and rebirth related. Well, the Egyptians were certainly the masters of it, but they weren't all...
Buckland's version of the Gardner story was that Gardner traveled the world studying religio magic, and when he retired, he found the New Forest witches, and that's what started that leg of his journey. He could not have added the stuff that he found along the way.
Oh, you're talking about directly on Gardner. I thought you were talking about historic witchcraft.
Well, no, that was my
of course,
thing.
Gardner was influenced by the Egyptians. Everyone was in the period of the Victorian. What are you talking about?
So why be all staunch traditional about it? It's just like, it's eclectic. Gardner's original craft was eclectic. He borrowed from all kinds of, like half of the meditation techniques are fucking Eastern. It's like, and there's nothing wrong with that. He borrowed from Crowley. Crowley wrote stuff.
I think that Philip Heselton is showing that there was a New Forest coven that he did discover. These people have been traced, so there is a certain amount that you have to take on faith. But here's the thing: regardless of whether that's accurate or not, what we can say with absolute fact is that what the Anglo-Saxon called witchcraft was not brujeria. I don't think I need to jump through a whole lot of academic hoops to make that point.
I'll step back.
So I'm going to make a little comment about this with the whole umbrella of witchcraft thing, to where witchcraft is used in this, that, and the other, and all that other shit that is, used in. One thing I will say, and it's something to maybe just take into account or into thought. When it comes to like that particular word, is it used as an umbrella? Of course it is.
Well, so's voodoo.
But here's the thing.
And they don't allow that.
You're missing. I'm not done yet.
No.
I'm not done yet. The word witchcraft is used, at least in my own experience, a lot when it comes to like American culture and the American understanding of that. Because let me tell you something, when you go outside of this country, you don't, it's like that word is not what you hear.
A lot of them would be offended to be called that.
But that's what I'm saying. Is that like there is
Well,
an
according
idea
to
in the mind.
according to Roid Rage and Gaptooth, the artist formerly known as Gaptooth, they were isn't he from Nicaragua, Honduras, or Venezuela, or whatever one of those little third world cesspit countries? But anyway, the point is, he argued that South American thing was witchcraft. If I were to go to that South American country, is that the word they would use? Would
No.
they say witchcraft to me? Because I don't
Nope.
think so. Because most of them
Absolutely
would
not.
be offended. It gets translated into English, but here's the thing.
But that's an American filter.
Like if I were to suddenly say, like let's say I was practicing Asatru, and I suddenly say, you know what this is? You can call this Norse voodoo. How many people would let me get away with that? But they can do that to witchcraft every 5 fucking minutes. They can use that word to mean every goddamn thing there is. But if I suddenly said, I'm practicing Norse voodoo, or I'm practicing Tai Chi voodoo, or, whatever the fuck, Siberian voodoo.
But that's the point.
They would eviscerate me, and
You're
rightfully
right.
so.
But that's the point. Is that like that word? That
Well, that's why
word is something that people they allow to become an umbrella for something
Yeah, because
else
all these
that it's not.
all these fucking fat park pagans. Now look, there's two separate arguments going on here. No, there's two separate arguments going on here, and this is where sort of the confusion lies, is because I think you're conflating the two arguments, Michael. Mm-hmm. And that one is witchcraft in its origins a specifically British thing? Before I'm talking about whatever the Anglo-Saxons were calling it. Yes. Now, is it the thing that evolved into what Gardner practiced? But it's a whole other discussion. But don't conflate those, because my main discussion was not about whether Gardner's practices were some direct result of what the Anglo-Saxons called Wicca and Witche, because I don't fucking know. Do I think? Well, yeah, I do think Gardner tapped into European folklore, but I think so did Gemma Gary. And I know some initiates will probably hate me for saying that, but I see witchcraft as, and it exists on multiple levels too. I see witchcraft as this giant window, and it has many panes of glass. Some of them are clear, some of them are more opaque, some of them are tinted, some of them are rippled. And I don't, so some give clearer pictures while others give less of a clear picture. And those panes of glass represent everything from the archetypal witch of feminine power, like the Witch of Endor or Circe. It includes Gardner's witchcraft. It includes whatever the Anglo-Saxons were calling witcha. It includes the kitchen witch. It includes Margaret Hamilton on her broom. Every one of those panes of glass, it includes, the 1790, the 1897, I don't know, 17, the fucking numbered witches, they got 1734, I can never get it right. Whatever, ththose people. The Cochranites, Sarah Junkie Lawless and her belladonna butter. All those different panes of glass. And I don't think anybody sees through all of them. Not the initiates, not the belladonna butters, none of them.
I could not agree more.
However, and on some level,
I could
yes.
not agree more.
On some level, one of those panes of glass will be what the colonists did to, Gaptooth South American country, wherever he's from, and, pointed a gun at that person and said, stop practicing witchcraft. Well, that's part of the story of the witch, too. And in the same token, so's voodoo. Because when you look through the lens of voodoo, there are people that will include zombies in a movie.
You will never hear a voodooisant describe themselves or call themselves a witch. You will never hear that. Ever.
No, that isn't what I said. Listen to it. If you're going to quote me, can you get what I actually say? There's nothing more frustrating than having one's word
didn't quote
translated.
you, did I?
I'm saying, like there is a window of the word witch, over here, a million miles from the word witch, that has nothing to do with the word witch, because I have to over-clarify, There is a window
bad the
for the
pizza.
word voodoo. Like there are many panes of that word because of culture and how people, everyday people, see the word voodoo. If you say voodoo to one person, they think zombies crawling down the street. If you say voodoo to another person, they think, some dark ritual. If you, to a voodoo zon, it's a religion. There are certain words in our culture that have evolved to have a multitude of meanings, and there's nothing we can do about it. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about the history of a word, voodoo comes from a particular fawn word. It has a trail, it has a history, it has an etymology. Same with witch.
Absolutely.
But you have to separate those discussions. I feel like if you talk about the fawn word voodoo and where it comes from, that doesn't invalidate the fact that there are millions of Americans who think of voodoo and think of an old Bela Lugosi movie.
But you just said it. You just made a very, very pointed argument there. You did. And when you said millions of Americans who say this, and I will go on record just so as you know, and say this yet again, like I've said 1,000 times. When it comes to that, when it comes to like the word witch, or it comes to the word voodooism, voodoo.
Well, they're misinterpreted in other countries too. What are you talking about?
But here's the thing: in this country,
It's not just this country, though.
not just, but in this country, everybody they choose to identify as I am this, and I am this, and I am this. When that's not how it works. And as an initiate,
I don't think
and I both know.
I don't think there's Americans
that's how it works.
identifying
Bullshit.
as voodoo as
Bullshit.
Wait a minute. What American is identifying as a zombie crawling down the street? I think
I'm not
that's
talking about a zombie.
But that was what
I'm
I was
talking
saying.
about a
I
voodooism.
don't think you're hearing me then. I'm saying.
Oh, no, I'm hearing
It isn't
you
just
just
who's.
fine.
I'm not talking about just the people practicing witchcraft. I'm talking about the people's definition of the word. How is that being missed? I don't know how that's not being heard. Like in other words,
But we're talking about the same thing.
there are people, when you say the word witch, it has a million meanings to a million people, not just in America, all over, wherever the word
Same as
witch
with
is
voodoo.
Right. So at some point, you have to be able to say, well, okay, there's all the panes of glass, but what's the actual origin here? We may not know what, and there are people, by the way, I met a scholar who said
Is it not Anglo-Saxon?
Voodoo and said that the voodoo of 100 years ago in Haiti is very different than the voodoo now. And I've heard that, so I don't know how true that is. But the point is, we still have to go back in time and say, what was it then and what is the origins? Well, we don't know what the Anglo-Saxons referred to as witche, but here's what we do know. It wasn't what they're practicing in South America. That's a fact. It wasn't. How?
It
Could
wasn't.
be?
It wasn't what they.
Let me ask. Okay, let me ask.
let me
the
tell
question.
you.
Columbian Exchange, 1492. How could a fucking religion before the Columbian Exchange, whatever they were referring to in England as Wicca and Witche, possibly be what they were doing in South America? Unless
riddle me this: are any of these people like manipulating roots and stones or bones and candles on a
now
space
you're talking
to
about
make
magic.
change? Yeah.
But magic. But I would argue
The religion is separate from the magic in a lot of ways.
I think what you're getting at is the idea that is out there now, and the anthropologists are certainly responsible for this because they use the term witch to refer to baneful magic anywhere in the world. So once witchcraft became positivized, now witchcraft became an umbrella word for magic anywhere in the world in an anthropological sense, and that's the fault of the anthropologist. However, and Levi makes this point incredibly well, and I'm going to invoke Levi Rowland in this, because here's what's different.
You can have him on.
Magic. But that universal thing that bonds what San Luis here does, and you do, and what I do, and what Marta does, it's not witch, it's magic. That's the thread.
Good point.
Because what made witches persecuted the way that they were, the reason that they were burned, for example, in continental Europe, and why they were hanged in England. They were hanged in England because it wasn't considered equal to heresy. So they didn't quite take it as badly as they did in the Continental, which declared it heresy. Now, what is heresy? Heresy is that religious rebellion. What would magic have to do with that? Nothing. They weren't the primary purpose for the persecution of witches. Yes, a lot had to do with the fear of magic, because magic scared people. But there was something that scared people more than magic, and that was evil spirits and devils, and particularly Satan. The main reason they persecuted witches was diabolism. They were convicted of heresy and diabolism. Not for anything, they would apply that to voodoo too, and they would say, don't
One is
do
not
it.
less greater than the other.
I understand that, but witchcraft is not the thread that binds the four people at this table
Of course
together.
not.
It's magic.
Of course it is.
Magic is the common thing when you're saying roots and bones.
Well,
and
one other common thing that I was just thinking about, everybody in this room, except for Marta, is male. And that was always the premise, that it was the Christian church trying to take away the power of women. And that was the witch persecution.
Well, I think that's
So
a
what do you
big
think
part
about
of it.
Can never take away the
I think
power
there's a
of
big
women.
part of it.
Understand
I
that.
actually
Ever.
wrote a college thesis paper about the persecution of women as witches. However, you also have to bear in mind, again, it was a gendered word. And the word we're remembering isn't the one for the women.
Yeah.
It's the one for the men. The word they're using to describe this religion, Wicca, comes from the word witcha, which meant not generic, non-gendered witch, but male witch.
So you're not
Wha-
buying that it was an Anglo-Saxon word that meant Wyas? That was always
I don't
bullshit.
think we know. I
No,
don't
it was
think we
bullshit.
know.
That was bullshit, but that was what they taught me when I was a kid, and that's
because
bullshit.
The etymology arguments of this word have so debated and hotly contested
time for
that when you actually go into what is accepted, there's very little.
Yeah.
Like the only thing Oxford accepts, they say that beyond Wicca and Witche, it's all mysterious and nobody knows, and they think it means sorcery. Sorcery and divination. That's all they got. That's all Oxford, the definitive Jesus Christ of etymology and linguistics is the Oxford people. I don't always agree with them. I don't agree with their take on warlock. And Oxford is often, along with the other dictionaries, decades behind actual scholarly research into words. So until all the scholars get together and say, well, it's really this, Oxford always comes along later. But the fact remains, we don't know what the word meant to the Anglo-Saxons.
I'm going to talk about that warlock word in a minute. We're going to take a short
Yes.
break. I got to pay some bills, and I want to talk about warlock because you got a lot to say.
I don't need to be a global citizen, cause I'm blessed by nationality. I'm a member of a growing populace, reinforce our popularity. There are things that seem to pull us under, and there are things that drag us down. But there's a power and a vital presence, it's lurking all around. We've got the American Jesus, see him on the interstate. We've got the American Jesus, he outbuilt the president's estate. I feel sorry for the Earth's population, cause some few live in the USA. At least the foreigners can copy our morality. They can visit but they cannot stay. Only precious few can garner the prosperity, and excess want the freedom confidence. We got a place to go where we die, and the architect resides right here. We've got the American Jesus, fostering national faith. We've got the American Jesus, overwhelming millions every He's the farmer here in fields, the books the army wields, expressions on the faces of the starting millions, the power of the plan, the fuel that drives the clan. He's the motive and the conscience of the murderer. He's a preacher on TV, the false sincerity, the formula that's written by the big computers and nuclear bombs, the kids with no moms and a pitiful man, he's inside me. Yeah, we've got the American Jesus, see him on the interstate. We've got the American Jesus, exercising his authority. We've got the American Jesus, bolstering national faith. We've got the American Jesus, overwhelming millions every day. Yeah.
Priesthoods. It was not.
The discussion has continued. God, you guys missed some epic stuff, so I had to cut them off, hoping that they'll continue their argument after we come back. We got to.
We're not really arguing. The
discussion.
We agree on most things.
Yes, but it's
my point is, you'd never. I mean, look at the way Pantheacon treated Utu, witch doctor Utu. But yet they had Katrina Rasbold representing all these other things. But I would never get away with saying I'm practicing Norse voodoo. I would never get away with saying I'm practicing Celtic voodoo.
Yeah.
I would never get away with saying I'm doing Strega Candomblé. I would never get away with saying I'm doing Siberian Mayombe. I wouldn't get away with it.
Let's wait for Melissa to get back.
But they can call witchcraft everything they want.
I want you guys to have this discussion on here. Hoodoo's out having a cigarette and yelling from the backyard. My neighbors.
Why is it okay when they do it to us?
You're listening to Widdershins Radio at our new broadcast time Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
It's the same broadcast time. just
Same
different day.
broadcast time, but I'm still saying it. We're
Any questions on the app yet?
there's been a lot going on in the chat room. They called you the I gotta figure it out. The Wendy Williams of NOLA. I don't. You. I don't know, but they don't know that. Maybe you do. At any rate, you're listening to Widdershins Radio and our new broadcast time. We're going to be here on Wednesdays, same time as usual. As you know, I teach witchcraft for a living, and I got a new year-and-a-day course starting March 1st. I have 4 year-and-a-day courses going at the same time, and when one finishes, the other begins. So,
Is it
check my
is
YouTube
it voodoo
channel.
Witchcraft?
No, it's not voodoo witchcraft.
What is it,
It is
motherfucker?
witchcraft. It is witchcraft under the.
Is it Santeria Mayombe?
No.
Nordic.
It is classical witchcraft with a sprinkling of strega and chaos magic on the top, and maybe a little bit of ceremonial
I don't do a
magic
little
here.
mix and mingling. I'm just saying.
Okay,
they do things to our word that they don't get away with.
Let me do my plugs here. I got to pay some bills. So, my new class starting March 1st. You can contact me at witchschool@gmail.com. It's $35 a month for a year and a day. Got 4 of them going on, so I'm kind of in a teaching frenzy right now. Contact me at witchschool@gmail.com, which is, of course, WITCHSKEWL @gmail.com, or you can rush right over to gumroad.com/witchschool. And if you don't want to wait, you want to binge watch a fucking year-and-a-day course, my old year-and-a-day course is up there at a reduced price. You can just download that fucking thing and sit there and watch it all night. Fucking people do that. I don't understand it, but some kids are in a hurry. At any rate, I got some contractual obligations to fulfill right now. Join in the magic. Hexfest is coming. Tales of the magic of the Crescent City of New Orleans stretch back over the centuries. It's an enigmatic place where voodoo, hoodoo, witchcraft, like we just talked about all this shit, witchcraft, and even Christianity blend at the crossroads of spiritual power. On August 7th to the 9th, 2020, Brian Kane, Christian Day, and the Witches of New Orleans present Hexfest, a weekend of witchery held in the heart of the historic French Quarter, right down the street from our house. The conference opens with a riverboat ritual, which is fucking epic. We've only done it once, but it was fucking him. Riverboat ritual and dinner held on an authentic steamboat on the Mississippi River, not the anti-witch one, but the other one. Followed by 2 full days of workshops, drumming, and ritual at the Bourbon Orleans Hotel, a venue riddled with a history of hauntings. And I'm sure, the Catholics will probably be there protesting too this year, like they always are. Hexfest has gathered witches, root workers, voodoo priests, and other magical teachers from within New Orleans and around the world to offer their time-honored wisdom. Between workshops, attendees will love the magical shopping in our on-site vending hall, where you can purchase powerful ritual tools, signed books, exquisite jewelry, and spellcrafts made by true practitioners. Presenters for the 2020 Hexfest hail from across the spectrum of witchcraft and magic and include Brian Kane, Christian Day, Austin Shippey, Carrie Ewers, Christine Steffens, The Dragon Ritual Drummers, Elohim Lafar, Ellie Barnes, Ellen Everett Hopman, Fiona Horn, Gemma Gary, Jason Gemma Gary.
Gemma.
Oh, I said it right then.
No, it's Gemma.
It is Gemma. Okay. God. Jason Mankey, Jason Miller, Kenya Koviak. I'm finally going to meet Kenya Koviak. Love her. Christopher Hughes, Lady Rhea, Leanne Maramar, Levi Rowland, Lilith Dorsey, Michael Carell, he's going to be there. Mimi Eubanks, Sandra Maria Wright, Mariah Wright, Senna Elias, and Witch Doctor Utu. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced practitioner, Hexfest will help you to discover the secrets of witchcraft and expand your mastery of the magical arts. And thank you for fixing that slight typo. It fucked me up every time I said that. Moise. You have a thing coming up before that. St. John's? Who was it?
I have several things.
What's the next thing coming up that we were going to go to?
Who calls you San Jose?
Candelo does, but he always mispronounces it.
San Jose.
Candelo.
Do you know the way to San Jose?
Do you know I'm going to bat you across the face in a minute here?
So you want to talk about your thing?
So February 5th through the 10th, I will be at Botanica Abre Caminos in Cleveland, Ohio. And then the last weekend of March, I will be at the Conjure Shop in Omaha, Nebraska. And then the first weekend in April, I'm going to be batting Christian's head across his face because he'd be funky.
Do you know the way?
And then, I hate you.
My kid even thought that was funny.
But yeah, so like I'm gonna be around, so y'all keep your head up.
You have an event coming up though.
I do. Yes, St. John's Eve weekend, which is going to be June the 19th through the 21st here in New Orleans, which is going to be a day of classes, a day of ritual, and then there's going to be like a little masquerade ball that's going on right here at the Hotel Provincial. If you're looking for tickets, you can get them at St. John's Eve Weekend.com.
Aren't you going to tell them who's there?
There's going to be a lot of people there.
We're going to be there.
That
me and Marta,
exactly, and
no, not presenting, but we're going to be there.
Uncle Birch and Marta are going to be there, and that's I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, Christian. I swear to God. There's going to be a lot of good people there. It's going to be good.
Oh, if you could only see.
They're threatening to kill Christians. God, that's what they always say about us.
I do it every other day.
So who else is going to be there?
Lots of good people's going to be.
I just got that.
To piss out you. The end.
So it's going to be a full day of workshops, and then the next day is going to be
a full day. It's going to be a full day of workshops.
Hateful.
The next day, the next day is going to be. There's going to be various ceremonies that's going on. There's going to be a special tour that's going on, and then there's going to be a party that's going on. I hate you. There's going to be a special party that's going on that evening. So St. John's Weekend of Conjure.com. Go there to get your tickets, and it's going to be wonderful. Bitch, I will
It sounds epic.
So, what
We're gonna
exactly
be there.
is St. John's Weekend?
St. John's Weekend is like in New Orleans is a very, very big deal because it goes to St. like that weekend, which typically is June 23rd. It's for St. John the Baptist. St. John the Baptist in the Voodoo. His name is really. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I was distracted by somebody. Anyway, it's a very, very potent weekend when it comes to like change, and it comes to not only bringing in what should be coming, but what it also refers to is that bringing in blessings and actually a change for the better for the individual that's involved.
And does it always coincide with solstice? It's always kind of that weekend?
It is the 23rd, like St.
Oh,
John's
yeah,
Day
the
is the
23rd.
23rd,
Right. Okay.
June 23rd
Okay.
of every single year.
Okay.
So it's the weekend that is the closest to it.
Right.
And
Okay.
and so I definitely encourage folks to go look at the website. St. John's Weekend.
I'd be
of
going,
Conjure
except I'm going to be in Egypt.
.com. I don't get.
You're going.
You're
You're
so
going to be
messy.
in
Oh,
June?
wait.
No, shut
Nothing.
up. I mean, in Cleveland, wasn't there
I
an
swear to
Egypt,
God, you know
Illinois?
what? You know what?
I think it's in Georgia.
Now you owe me. Now you.
To San Jose.
Anyway,
Speaking of San Jose, this is the last year.
Oh.
This is the last. While
Shirley's
while
pronounce it.
San Jose and my
Moise.
San Jose. to San Jose. No, so San Luis in his wonderful festival that he hosts with Star Casas, and there's going to be some wonderful people there, and also Hex Fest that Brian and I host are awesome festivals that will be going on for many years to come because we have great content at both festivals and people can learn a lot. But this is the last year of PantheaCon.
Yep.
Oh.
Imagine.
I won't miss
We
it.
used to live like 40
we
minutes away.
used to be kind of
but-
obligated to
Yeah.
go. It was kind of, we were in a small pond. And
Oh, Rachel
yeah.
has a question about will Pickles be there at the...
Oh,
Pickles. We love pickles.
Pickles is definitely the star of everything.
Yeah.
So
I was hoping you were going to bring him tonight. I should have told you.
You should have.
Yeah. Well,
Because
he's just so you know, you can bring him whenever you want.
Yeah.
well, go.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I
Seriously.
will,
Okay.
Okay.
and I'll leave him.
As you would love it.
No.
Yeah. As he needs a friend.
Pickles will definitely be around because Pickles is kind of like the master of ceremonies. So if he gives it a blessing, then like we're good to go. If you don't, then I don't know what can help you.
Guard your drinks if Mr. Pickles
Just make
is
sure
there.
Oh my
Pickles
God.
doesn't
I'm
get
saying.
skewered by
Pickles
anything.
totally took a big swig of my drink last time he was
Pickles
here.
went for your drink. He went for my beer.
And it was a
Yeah.
brand new drink, so it's just like, fuck it.
And she must have too. It's like, she wasn't going to drink it because of the dog spit, but then she did.
I did.
She's a dirty bitch. She's a dirty bitch. That's what I like about her,
Yeah, because Pickles just don't care. He's like, I'm gonna do me, and that's it.
Yeah.
And guess what? So yeah, Pickles will be around.
So
He
what are
sure
some
will.
of the classes you're doing at St. John's?
Actually, well, I will tell you that I'm actually teaching a class about spiritual reading. I'm teaching a class. Christian. I am teaching a class on the spiritual side of the tarot. In other words, like how to read the cards, which is a little bit of a different way that people typically learn to read the card. If you put those spoons in your hand one more time, Jesus Lord, it's going to be a problem. So anyway, I'm teaching a class on the spiritual side of the tarot, which basically shows you a whole different way to read the cards, at least like the tarot cards. And what I do incorporate into that so people understand is, because I read the tarot, I read playing cards, I read chamalongos, and I read cowrie shells. And so all of those things are tools. Shut the hell up.
Now, what was the thing before cowrie
Yes,
shells?
chimichangas. That's what those are. I'm gonna throw fried Doritos up in the air and see
I
how
didn't
many.
hear you. I heard chimichangas and cowrie
Swear to
shells.
God. But anyway, this is about learning how to read cards in a different way than perhaps you knew how to read before. And this is the spiritual side of that, which is not just what the individual card has to say, but what the interpretation of the card is. Which is, there's about 437,000 different ways to interpret one card, depending upon the reading, because every single person and every single circumstance is different depending upon what's going on at the time. So I will be doing that class there, and there'll be several other wonderful, amazing classes that's going on at the same time.
Like who?
You're gonna plug those? Yeah, you gotta tell us.
Well, I'm actually.
Yeah.
I forgot. What's Mama start teaching? Anything? Wait,
No,
I
she
could've sworn was on there.
she is.
Okay.
She's teaching.
Why can't I post?
So Mama Star is teaching a class. Papa
Simon.
Hector is teaching a class. Mambo Sandy is teaching a class.
And what was it?
Sansisa Bruja
Yeah,
Lewis
yeah.
is teaching a class as well.
Yeah.
And you can go to St. John's Weekend of
Did he mention-
Conjure.com to find out who's teaching what class. But it is something to definitely come in on.
Yeah, we've had Sansista on
Seemed
the
like you
show
skipped
before.
somebody.
Orion Foxwood is also teaching a class.
I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe you got to plug everybody that's going to be there.
Absolutely.
We're going to be there, and since we're going to pay for tickets, we'll be there. His class too.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
be there for all of
Exactly, and it's going to be amazing.
Amazing.
And I can only say, just be there and
Why
then
can't I post to your chat?
get what needs to be gotten, and it's going to be great.
I can't
Great.
post.
So
to the
they're
chat.
gonna let Pickles into the.
Are you signed in?
I forgot what the name of
Pickles
the
can go
hotel.
wherever Pickles wants to go. Nobody will say no to him.
Okay.
Yeah, Pickle's pretty.
Because
fucking
if
cute.
I'm bringing Pickles in, they won't say no to me.
Okay.
So I'm like, Pickles is coming, the end.
Yeah. I wish our dog fit in a bag or something, but
Yeah.
he doesn't.
Yeah, but this we have this huge dog. Look, he just kind of tucks himself
No, there's
away.
no-
I was about to say, he
like,
don't
out of
really
the
fit
way.
into a bag.
Button to
I mean,
say,
it has to be
like-
like a really big bag.
Well, not that I can even
big
carry
bag?
him.
Well, no, then there's
Wow.
that because he's like what 80 pounds. I mean, it's like damn.
He's like
Yeah.
75. Yeah.
Big,
Close.
yeah.
Yeah, very big.
But our dog playing with Mr. Pickles, the little pug,
Yeah,
is
really
one of the
cute.
funniest things you ever fucking would have seen in your life.
Cute.
Yeah, cute as fuck. Man, so we gotta just have you guys on every fucking show. This has been epic, and we don't have to work very hard. Just let
I
you
know,
roll.
we should just make a weekly.
They're all, we were sitting here. It's they're going. So what are we going to talk about tonight? It's like, that's not a fucking problem. We're just going to open
No,
the
we
fucking
got
mic, and the show will fucking happen. Widdershins has never been overly planning ahead of time, and usually when we schedule a guest, it'll be like the day before or some shit. But, yeah. Epic.
We're gonna have.
That's about
We
10
need to
minutes.
have Jason Mankey soon, right?
Yes, we were going to have Jason Manking before, but then Marta reminded me, oh, well, next Tuesday's Christmas Eve, and then the Tuesday after that's New Year's Eve.
He's awesome. He's one of my favorite witches.
I like his shirt. Marta got
Well,
me
you
the
know, we're
Broward
in the
shirt.
same area for a while because he's in the Bay Area. We're in the Bay Area.
He's one of the few
But
people that go to PantheaCon. I would add.
Yeah.
Someone was on the chat going, "I bet some of the PantheaCon people wouldn't." I'm like, "Well, I'd have him, but most of them,
and I always wondered, I don't know what he's doing, but everybody likes him.
Well, because
You know,
he
like,
lives
just
near
doesn't-
there. What's he gonna? You know what I mean? If you live down the street.
No, I mean like you like him, and you know, like.
But then
he's-
back there's so many
nobody
people that
dislikes him.
like Jason Mankey that hated our fucking guts. You know, we didn't know if he'd like us. And then we met him at Hexfest.
Yeah, but he
Yeah,
actually.
Hexfest brings people together.
No, he started out. I wouldn't say he was a hater per se, but like when Reed Wildermuth was bashing me for something or another, comparing me to David Duke or something, you know, when Jason said something like, "Well, I don't really like him," you know, just from the public, you know, how I rub people the wrong way. And I remember reaching out and going, you know, I get you might not like me, and that's fair. I said, but you know, don't lend your name to what this guy is doing. And of course, Reed ended up ripping him to shreds. You know, that guy's a real asshole. But you know, Jason and I just really hit it off, and he's
we did too. We
I
met
think
him at
he's a
Potions.
very
He just
fair
hit it up.
person, and he really likes to see the whole of somebody as opposed to the gossip. I mean, look, it's no secret I rub people the wrong way, sometimes on purpose. But a lot of the
That's
stuff,
what we like
and the
about
same
you.
is true of you. You know what I mean? They make things up.
Yeah.
They make things up about San Luis. They make things up about everybody. You know, that when you become in the public eye,
But
you're always going to have that. It's just how it is.
But I think that's actually I
Oh, it makes you
actually-
money.
I take that as a compliment.
What makes you
Yeah.
money? You should.
Do you guys know
Because-
Phil Hine?
No.
Phil Hine is, if you ever want to know anything about chaos magic, he's the best one to read and the easiest to understand. And Phil Hine did this thing one time. He had a problem with gossip. People always gossiping about him. So he was going to create a servitor to stop gossip. But then he had an awakening. And he realized that gossip is part of a mage's power.
It is.
People
Absolutely.
attributing crazy stories, large powers, satanic rituals to you, just talking
Every
about you,
one of those-
being ignored.
Every one of those
Nothing.
arrows they fire at you is fucking dipped in gold, and I never got that more than when Sandra a few months back posted, you know, what's your favorite festivals and this and that, and Z Budapest was still on her friends
Oh,
list,
God.
and she went on there. Oh my God, there is a sausage fest there in New Orleans. And his name is Christian Daly. You know, she got my name wrong.
She got a problem with
And she said,
sausages,
and
clearly.
he send shades in the night, and they burn like hot flames. But I'm a witch, and I know how to chase them away. Melissa Mayhem gets on there, and she's like, validated. You know, when you've got somebody
God.
as iconic as Z Budapest thinking you're burning her crotch in the middle of the night, or you know, whatever. You know, honey, that's venereal disease. But whatever. The point is, that kind of shit is fucking great.
Yeah.
It makes you money. It makes you power. It makes you converts. It brings people, because everybody wants to see what all the fuss is about.
Well, like when me and Marta, we went quiet to do the shit that it took to move to New Orleans. You know, some of the fucking rumors that came back to us that people were talking about, like, we're going to get a divorce, you know, something happened to our
Of course.
kid, all this fucking...
Of course.
People fucking talk about you.
Absolutely.
And it's you know, that's more power than being
But-
ignored.
And you're 1,000% right.
Let them say whatever
and,
they want to
and,
say.
and it's like, you know, it's like one of the things that I love to perpetuate is that haters are our biggest fans.
Absolutely.
And guess what? You know what they're going to do? They're going to continue to perpetuate us.
Well, you
If
guys-
you can say, you can talk all the shit that you want, but you know what you're going to
Look
do?
at Howard Stern.
Is that
Yeah,
exactly?
yeah.
All you're going to do
Money
is you're going to make more people look for you. And more people like, oh, you know, who is such and such, and what do they
Well,
do?
you
Well, you
guys-
gotta be
And blah,
careful
blah, blah,
going
blah.
for that kind of. You know, I remember I love go to YouTube and find when Howard Stern's, you know, Robin Quivers. She went
Yes,
on the Tonight
yes,
Show,
yes,
yes.
and Linda Ron, and I love Linda Ronstadt, but she was on there and she starts riding Robin Quivers like she was a poor put upon black woman, allowing a white man to use her and all this other stuff. And oh, you don't know, he's just using him. And Linda Ronstadt's giving her all these smarmy smiles and all this, and you know, Robin didn't quite know how to react, so she's super pissed. Well, then you get Howard there on Monday, and you know, him and Robin are taking this on, and of course you find out Linda Ronstadt performed in South Africa during apartheid and never bothered to apologize, and refused to when reporters asked her to apologize. Yet she's calling out this black woman for who she chooses to be on the radio with, when you know she's upholding apartheid. You never go with for people like that, because they'll always find. I mean, if there's anything true of us, people, whether it's San Luis, whether it's you, whether it's me, people bring us the dirt.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? They bring us the dirt. So it's not like we don't have it. We might choose not to use it most of the time. But never think we aren't sitting on all these little secrets of where the bodies are buried. So you just never know where, there's Howard
Where
Stern,
to put the shovel?
whipping out the shit on Linda Ronstadt. And you just never know when we might dig up one of the bodies. I'm just saying, proceed
You guys
with
know
caution.
fairy witchcraft. Storm
FDRI.
and Devon.
There we go.
And,
Do I know fairy?
Yeah, fairy
I
witchcraft.
don't know
The
nothing about the
Bay
fairy.
Area,
But you know of them.
California people.
I know
I
of
don't,
them,
I don't
yes.
know of them.
Storm Fairy Wolf, Devon.
I know
You know
of
of
them,
them.
but
I think even Matt Arons.
know them.
I don't know
Probably.
her.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't. Remember Mariah Carey? I don't know her.
At any rate, so
know
fairy
that.
witchcraft. I
don't know that.
Even most of the fairy witchcraft people that I know don't even really understand their own tradition. It's
that I know.
It's a combination of Huna, is Italian, Hawaiian magic, Strega, Italian magic, and Welsh. Welsh bardic magic is the origins. But the Huna,
Feckless
they say,
fairies.
where attention goes, energy flows. And that's the wisest thing I ever heard any old fucking indigenous people ever say, man. It's just like, fucking keep attention on you, man. It doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's fucking hate. Doesn't matter if it's love. Fucking keep talking.
I don't know them.
When you were out of the room, I was talking about all the rumors that started when we went quiet. People talking all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it was like people think we were getting
oblivious.
divorced. And something happened to our kid.
my family
maybe we
members
went
were
bankrupt.
like,
and
Wait a minute,
it's like-
fairy said this about you?
No.
I thought you were getting a
But
divorce,
I was just saying in the fairy tradition, the idea of where attention
Aren't there
goes,
different
energy
ones?
flows.
There's like FERI
Yeah,
and then there's
FAERI.
Well, that's
and then there's
that's kind of the ignorance within their tradition. It is, and in case you all are out there, it's FERI. I know more about the fairy tradition than most fairy initiates I've ever fucking met. It's FERI.
Aren't they those
Victor
radical
Anderson,
fairies
Corey
that wear lots of
Anderson,
purple
and
or something
Gwydion
like that?
Pentherwin is where the tradition comes from.
I'll go.
I thought they were radical fairies. Like we're
Yeah,
in purple.
Well, there's the
That's
radical
a
fairy is a
separate group.
different thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I think they're just FAIRY. There's so many fucking ways to spell
Yeah.
fairy.
I don't know them.
It's confusing.
I saw one once. I thought it was a pug.
A what?
You gay guys don't know any fairies, really? Really?
First of all,
They're not listening.
the
So
kind
in New Orleans,
Excuse me.
everybody is a fairy, but it's
the
not that
kind of fairies
fairy.
I know are
That's
called the
different.
unseelie court.
Yeah, different kind of fairy. I mean,
know
ultimately,
those
in
kind
the
of
fairy
fairies.
tradition, the fairies they're referring to are Hawaiian spirits.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Most of those people need to get laid.
Ah, shit. We're getting up there. You guys got some closing thoughts?
Yeah, have a good
Something to
night.
Do you have a
say?
closing thought, Christian?
Yeah, have a good night.
Okay, so since he's already fucking done with his little closing thought, I'll give you all this. No matter what tradition that you're in, no matter what it is that you do, I will tell you each and every time, make sure that you always, always, always go to your ancestors first, because they are the foundation on everything in which you stand, and they actually move in whatever it is tradition that you move into. And so if you have that foundation of the ancestors, then what you have is something firm to stand on. And if you have something firm to stand on, it doesn't matter how strong the storm it is. But you'll always make sure that you stand strong in that.
That's
And
why.
in that, what you do is you move forward. Please understand that. And please never, never, never forsake the foundation that has been laid
Always
before you.
stand on two strong sticks.
Christian Day, Kudu Semois. Thank you for gracing our household and our radio show. It's been fucking epic. And we'll probably listen to this later tonight. And have a few drinks, a few laughs. But I've said it before. It's like usually when we have Christian on the show, we're just kind of listening to him talk, and we jump in here and there. And then we had Samois on the show. I remember saying it the first day. I said, we could just listen to you all day. Just keep going.
That's why
I don't think we
finally
said much all.
understood how to pronounce your name, because I've heard.
Well, 'cause we asked
all kinds
him.
of things. Yeah, we asked
How
him.
did you say? Muzi?
No,
Well,
we
I've
asked him
al-
before
I've
we
always
said
heard
it.
like Moise
Yeah.
or whatever.
Wazi.
I knew
Wazi.
Candelo was fucking it
No.
up. I knew Candelo was fucking it up.
His
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Mose.
yeah. We know he was.
I was on
You know
Candelo's
the
show
way
for like
to
2
say
years,
Mose.
and he always fucked it up. I was his co-host.
Yeah.
And,
As soon as you said Moise, I was like, okay, got it.
wait, and Candelo's going to be at your event.
He will be.
You didn't even mention that. Yes,
What
Candelo.
about
Candelo Cambisa will be at
She'll be
at,
there.
at the event.
Oh,
in
Candelo
June.
will be there.
Yeah.
Yes, he will be there in June. And so, again, St. John's Weekend of Conjure.com. You can go and get tickets.
All right, y'all. Till next time, aim high and throw hard. Widdershins, y'all.
When the crowd gets busted, when the floor gets dusty, when your blade gets rusty, with a shins, when your room smells funny, when a hex takes your money, what's gonna save you, honey? Just with a shins.